Welcome back to the NFLandU podcast. I'm your host, as always, Hayden Vassar, and we are coming to you hot on a big day of NFL news and whatnot. It's Tuesday, October 29th, otherwise known as Trade Deadline Day, and we are coming at you at exactly 3:42 Eastern Time, literal minutes before the trade deadline is imposed. And there's been a lot of talk, a lot of uh, behind the scenes movement so far today amongst teams to see if there would be some trades, but it sounds like it's starting to wind down. The biggest trade that's happened so far today, Aqib Talib got sent to the Dolphins. The Rams secondary player who has been placed on IR sent to the Dolphins this morning. Seems like it's just a salary dump by the Rams, but we're going to be periodically checking in throughout the entirety of this podcast to see if any trades happen and whatnot, and that sort of thing. Because the original thought was, hey, do we just do a normal recap show and talk about trades on Friday, or do we record much later into the night and try to recap everything at once, or do we take none of the above and just wing it right as the trade deadline's happening? And as you can tell, we're taking option C. So, we're going to progress as normal, do the recap stuff of all the games that happened this Sunday and Monday night. And then if any trade happens while we're recording, we'll talk about it as it happens. Just wing it. It's always been my motto. So first up, before we get into everything else, I just want to mention we probably had our best weekend we've ever had in terms of picks. We went 13-2 in picks. Best weekend ever. Almost went perfect. We almost went perfect outside of 2 early games. Oh, but you know what? You live and you learn. 13-2 is pretty good, and we're going to roll with that. So let's get into it. First game up, we got the Seahawks at the Falcons. Seattle wins this one 27-20. Seattle improves to 6-2 on the year, and Atlanta falls to 1-7 and have now lost 6 straight going into their bye week. This was a very odd game from the looks of it because it was a tale of two halves. The Seahawks jump out to this impressive, massive lead in the first half. They're up 24-0 at the half. Russell Wilson threw 2 touchdowns to DK Metcalf in the first half. Chris Carson had a touchdown run. And you're thinking, oh, goodness, they're just going to absolutely blow the doors off the Falcons in Atlanta. It looks about as awful as it could possibly get. And it's a trend that we've seen throughout the year for the Falcons. They've been outscored 144-50 in first halves combined this year. They just get off to horrendous starts, and their only win this season was a game that they led at the half, that Week 2 game against Philly. But second half starts, and Matt Schaub, the quarterback for the Falcons, because Matt Ryan didn't play in this game because of his ankle injury, Matt Schaub played surprisingly well in this game and led a ferocious second half comeback for the Falcons. Matt Schaub finished the game 39 of 52 for 460 yards, 1 touchdown, an interception, and 2 sacks. And he was just throwing it all over the yard. The Falcons outscored Seattle 20-3 in the second half. It was incredible watching them just mount this insane comeback that just fell short in the end. It did feel like that the Seahawks kind of just took their foot off the gas in this game, especially in the second half. I mean, the Seahawks defense isn't imposing or anything like that. They're more of like an average run-of-the-mill defense. But it just really felt like the Seahawks took their foot off the gas and the Falcons took advantage. And maybe if this game went on for like an extra 5 minutes, maybe the Falcons win this game. Which is crazy to think about. In all honesty, the Falcons showed some life in a game that they showed life for the first time in weeks. That they haven't looked this competitive in literal weeks. Their offense looked very competitive, even though there's still no run game in Atlanta, and you can probably credit that to being down, 3 scores at the half. But Matt Schaub reignited their passing game. Julio Jones had a good day, 10 catches, 152 yards, and their defense, they hadn't had a sack in over a month. They had 2 in this game. 2 sacks in this game on Russell Wilson. So the Falcons, stepped up in a game they really, really, really needed. Pete Carroll, the Seahawks head coach, credited Dan Quinn's coaching as the reason why uh, the Falcons didn't give up in this game. And hearing a lot of people talk over the weekend, it sounds like Dan Quinn's probably going to keep his job till the end of the year. He's a really beloved guy in that organization. It's just the results haven't been there, and that's sad. Russell Wilson in this game went 14 of 20 for 182 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 sacks. It really feels like the Seahawks just stopped trying in the second half because it was 24-0 against a one-win team. So, of course, they, stopped trying. Chris Carson, the Seahawks running back, 20 rushes, 90 yards, and a touchdown. And Tyler Lockett, the Seahawks wide receiver, 6 catches and 100 yards. It just goes to show you that the Seahawks took their foot off the gas. The Falcons had 512 total yards in this game, and the Seahawks had 332 total yards. They just stopped trying, and the Falcons, I'm serious. If this game went on like 5 more minutes, I think the Falcons could have won it. The Seahawks were just unenergetic and just uninterested in the second half against this one-win team. But the Seahawks hang on to win it. They outlast the Falcons, and the Falcons go into their bye week at 1-7, just feeling awful about themselves. And there's really not much to say about Atlanta. It sounds like Matt Ryan will be back after the bye week, but who's to say? There hasn't been any talk about them trading anybody today, even though update now we're 12 minutes till the deadline, so something could theoretically still happen, but as of right now, it's been quiet on the Atlanta front. It's just been a wholly disappointing year for the Falcons. They had very high aspirations that they would get back to winning this year, and it just didn't materialize, and that's sad for them. Once again, Seahawks win this one 27-20, and Seahawks improved to 6-2, trying to keep pace with the 49ers in the NFC West. All right, moving on to our next one. The Eagles at the Buffalo Bills. Philadelphia wins this one 31-13. Very much a surprising win, probably the upset of the weekend. The Eagles improved to 4-4, snaps a 2-game losing streak. Buffalo falls to 5-2, and it snaps a 2-game winning streak for them. It was a rain-soaked day in Orchard Park, New York, for the Bills. And Philly just went out there and pulled a Buffalo. They went out there and said, we're going to impose our running game on you, and our defense is going to smack you around. That's the Buffalo Bills' recipe for winning games. And Philly said, no, we're going to do it to you. Philadelphia had 218 rushing yards in this game. And if I remember correctly, it's the most they've had in a game since Doug Peterson took over as head coach in 2016. That's what ESPN said on Monday, if I remember correctly. The Bills just went out and walked into a buzzsaw. The Eagles just came out and just bullied them. They got physical right up in their face and told them, we're going to out-muscle you. And it was impressive because this is one of the few games this season where the Eagles held a lead at the half. Even though it was a small lead, it was 11-7 at the half. So it wasn't like they were outscoring and running the Bills off the field. It was just, 11-7. It's a 4-point differential. One of those weird scores that you've only seen in the Buffalo Bill games. And you're thinking, okay, it's a close game, and we're going into the second half. That's usually when we see the Bills take off and start doing things, especially in the fourth quarter of games, where they seem to just have a sudden explosion to come from behind to win. That's how they've won most of their games. But Miles Sanders, the Eagles running back, had a 65-yard touchdown run early in third quarter, and that was basically the nail in the coffin for the Bills. It put the Eagles up 20-6 early in the third quarter, and there was nothing else for the Bills. I mean, nothing. It was just really astonishing watching this game because it really was a reversal of fortune for Buffalo. It was so odd to see a team come into their home stadium and do to them what they had been doing to others for the vast majority of the early part of the season. Uh, for just looking at the stats here, Jordan Howard, the Eagles running back, 23 rushes, 96 yards, and a touchdown. Carson Wentz, didn't have the biggest day in terms of stats, but he came in and threw the ball pretty well in a rain-soaked environment with the wind howling at him. 17 to 24, 172 yards and a touchdown. Not too bad. Josh Allen, on the other hand, didn't have the best day. Had a couple fumbles in this game. 16 to 34, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4 sacks. Uh, it was just insanely odd to see, a Buffalo team that I have sat here and praised for these last couple of weeks as being the front runner for a wild card in the AFC. Just walk into their home stadium and just get embarrassed like this. I mean, this was, the Buffalo's only lost 2 games this year, and the other one was to New England, but this was the most embarrassing moment for the Bills this season to just get out muscled and out physicaled by a Philadelphia team that was, facing all sorts of issues. I mean, the defense was in shambles. There were accusations that players in the locker room were turning on Carson Wentz to the media. It was just a whole cluster of things going wrong with this Eagles team, and they walk into your house and beat you handedly by double digits is quite the shock. Now, I saw a fair amount of people on social media saying, "Oh, this proves the Bills are a fraud. They aren't as good as everybody says they are." I still think the Bills are probably going to win 10 games because their schedule is so freaking light and easy. But, they may be a team that, gets like the 5th overall seed in the playoffs and loses in the first round. I wouldn't be stunned by that. I just have no faith in this Bills offense. They're not built to score points. They're just not. So if they get into a fourth quarter game and they're down by like 18 points, I don't see them winning. Now, most teams would lose in that situation, but I heard somebody, I don't remember who it was earlier this year, I think they were talking about the Vikings when they said it, when the Vikings were having their struggles. They said if your offense isn't built to come from behind, then you really don't have an offense at all. And you know what? It's kind of true when you think about it. We've said it all year on this podcast that I think that the Bills' offense is an offense that's going to top out at 17 to 20 points. And you know what? They got you 13 today. And you know what? The Eagles' defense has been pretty bad. So it's really not a good sign. I think the Bills will bounce back and they'll be fine and they're probably going to win 10 games, but this was just an embarrassing loss for them on their home field. And huge credit to the Eagles, facing, like I said, a whole cluster of issues. It just felt like everything was going wrong. They're riding that huge 2-game losing streak. And they survived this 3-game road stint against a murderer's row of teams, the Vikings, Cowboys, and now the Bills, and they're 4-4. The rest of the season is still in front of the Philadelphia Eagles. They're still in the hunt. So, congrats to the Eagles. Once again, they won 31 to 13. All right, moving on to our next game. The Chargers at the Bears. Talk about another surprise of the weekend for a lot of reasons. If you sat down and watched this game, you couldn't possibly believe what you were seeing. The Chargers win this one 17 to 16. Chargers improve to 3-5 on the year, snap a 3-game losing streak. Chicago falls to 3-4 and in the middle of a 3-game losing streak. And I got to describe this to you guys. So the Bears, in every statistical category in this game, the Bears dominated. Rushing per game, passing in the game. You name it, the Bears were better in this game than the Chargers. Undoubtedly and unequivocally, the Bears were better. And the Bears, after an Austin Eckler touchdown by Phillip Rivers to Austin Eckler at around, what was that, like halfway through the fourth quarter or just a couple minutes left? Yeah, it was 8:12 left in the fourth quarter. And he hits Austin Eckler. So the Chargers go up by 1 point, and the Bears get the ball back with little time left, and Trubisky God bless his soul, leads the best drive he has arguably led all season long. And that includes the drive in Denver where he set up the game-winning field goal. So he's hitting some big-time clutch passes down the field. And then he hits the scramble run to help get the Bears into field goal range. I'm talking a big-time scramble by Trubisky. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, where has this kid been all this year? So now the clock's winding down, under a minute. And the Bears, for some godforsaken reason, they are 40. It's a 41-yard field goal from where they have the ball at, and they have one timeout, but the clock's ticking. It's under 40 seconds. So what does Matt Nagy, their head coach, call? He tells them to kneel the football and waste clock. Stunningly, he does not try to help his kicker get into better field goal position. He just wants to run the clock. So Trubisky sets it up, they kneel the ball, and they get it all the way down in 3 seconds. They waste their last timeout, and Twitter is already on Matt Nagy's case for a already horrific game that he had called. So now the Bears are setting up for a 41-yard field goal attempt. 41 yards. It could have been shorter, but they chose not to try for that. But Cowboys decide, not the Cowboys, the Bears decide they're fine with the 41-yard field goal. So out comes Eddie Piñeiro, the hero of Chicago who won them the Denver game, trots out for a 41-yard try, and what does he do? He misses it to the right. He misses it to the right, and the Bears lose because of coaching incompetence. It was truly stunning to behold. I cannot tell you how stupid, like infuriatingly stupid it was by Matt Nagy to not even try to help his field goal kicker out and move the ball closer. Think about this. The Bears' running game exploded for the first time all season. Ty Montgomery, their rookie running back, what did he have? 27 rushes for 135 yards and a touchdown in this game. Career highs in every category for him, because, he's a rookie. And you know what he was averaging? Oh, no, hang on, wait, that's not right. Yeah, there it is. He was averaging like 5 yards a carry. 5 yards a carry. And you're telling me you don't even want to try to run the ball to maybe get 2 or 3 yards, make it less than a 40-yard field goal for your kicker? Matt Nagy, after the game, said he had zero thought about running or throwing the football to try and help Eddie Piñeiro. He says that's because he has the most faith and confidence in his kicker. I take it as you have zero faith in your offense, that you don't trust them to not turn the ball over for 30 seconds. That's what that screams to me. As soon as he said that they had zero thought of trying to get the ball closer, my first immediate gut reaction is the Bears organization should have zero thought about keeping Matt Nagy after that. That was an absolute embarrassment by Matt Nagy to do that. And I truly believe he is the reason they lost that game, because of his coaching incompetence. There was also that insanely stupid, they're down by the goal line like right before the half on 3rd and 9, and he calls a run play to Montgomery up the middle. Are you kidding me? Oh yeah, and the fans booed that too. It was just an awful day from the play calling perspective for Matt Nagy, who's been calling some real clunkers of games this entire year. I just don't understand why you don't at least try to help your kicker. If it was like in the field goal range of 35 yards or less, I can understand taking the knee because it's closer and you don't want to get too close. You're 41 yards out, dude. Make it closer. Make it a chip shot. But Matt Nagy decided, no, just increase the difficulty. Because why not? It was just so confusing to watch. I was truly stunned watching it happen. the Bears were absolutely the better team in this game. I truly believe that. Phillip Rivers didn't even have a good game in this one. He went 19 to 29, 201 yards, the lone touchdown to Austin Eckler. It was the go-ahead touchdown, so he got the game-winning touchdown. One interception and a sack. The Chargers had 12 rushing attempts for 36 yards. It was just a bad day for the Chargers offense. I will say though that the Melvin Gordon touchdown run in this game, it looked a lot like the old Melvin Gordon, but I still think Austin Eckler should get the majority of the snaps going forward. It's just, I'm not sure. This Chargers team still isn't good, but I think this Bears team is just finding new ways to lose. Trubisky in this game, he didn't play great, but you know what? It's starting to get really weird that I really think that he's only at his best when it's an absolute tight deadline that he needs to perform well. Think about it. The playoff game against Philadelphia last year, that last-minute drive to set up the field goal, he looked really good. That field goal drive in Denver in Week 2, he looked really good. And then this game, to set up the field goal that would have won the game, he looked really good. Where is that Trubisky more often? Does he need to be in a do-or-die moment in order for him to, step up and make a big play? It's just really weird. I think the Chargers are bad and the Bears are a dysfunctional mess, and I just can't get over what Matt Nagy did in this game. But news from this game continued Monday night as the Chargers fired their offensive coordinator, Ken Whisenhunt, who had been there for 2-3 years at this point. And it's probably because he's been unable to manufacture a run game. I know Melvin Gordon hasn't looked his best, but I mean, my goodness, you're in a tight game and you only run the ball 12 times? Come on, man. So Ken Whisenhunt out as offensive coordinator, so we're going to see what the Chargers offense looks like going forward, but they got a much-needed win in this one, and they stole one from the Bears. The Bears should have won this game, but Matt Nagy decided that he would take it away from his own team. Once again, Chargers win this one 17-16, and we're going to move on to the next one. Actually, no, wait, hang on. We're going to take a quick moment to mention that the trade deadline has passed. It is past 4 p.m. Eastern. If I'm looking at the clock correctly, it says 4:08 on my television. So the trade deadline has passed, and it sounds like there have been no major trades at the deadline on this Tuesday, which is a bit stunning considering all the talk that was coming out this morning. There was talk that Le'Veon Bell, the Jets running back, in fact, there was talk that the Jets could have an entire fire sale today. There was talk Le'Veon Bell could be traded. There was intense talk that Jamal Adams, their star safety, could be traded to the Cowboys, which was really why I postponed recording this podcast, because I wanted to see if Jamal Adams would become a Cowboy. There was talk that the Washington football team was finally ready and willing to deal Trent Williams. There was a lot of talk going on these last few hours, and it sounds like nobody really made a move as the deadline comes and passes. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The NFL trade deadline has now officially passed. We are now officially past the halfway point of the season. No teams can make any more trades now until, March of next year? So I guess everybody's set. Really surprising that no major trades happen on deadline day. Bit surprising. So that's that. Deadline is now officially passed, and we're going to keep going on with our recaps. Next game up, the New York Giants traveled to Detroit this weekend to take on the Lions, and Detroit won a fun one. This was actually a pretty fun game to watch. Lions win 31-26. Detroit improves to 3-3-1 on the season, stops their skid, and the Giants are still just finding ways to lose. They're 2-6 now. Matthew Stafford, the Lions quarterback, stays hot in this one as Lions outlast Giants in Detroit. Giants tried to come back, but in the fourth quarter, but they had 2 turnovers on downs, and it was just a failed onside kick in the fourth quarter, so it was just way too much to overcome for the Giants. The Lions jumped out to a big lead in this one. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead after Daniel Jones, the Giants quarterback, had a turnover. It was a scoop and score by the Lions defense, and then Matthew Stafford added on with a touchdown. it was just a fun kind of back and forth game. I mean, the Lions jumped out to a big lead, and then the Giants started clawing their way back, and then the rest of the game is just the Lions trying to beat the Giants off with a stick, trying to just maintain a lead. Daniel Jones, despite the turnovers, had a pretty good game. He had a career high in completions, attempts, and passing touchdowns. He went 28 of 41 for 322 yards and 4 touchdowns in this game. It was kind of a just a scorer's delight in this one. And Saquon Barkley, looked like his old self in this game. Went 19 of 64 in rushes. And you're thinking, how does he look like his old self? But he also had 8 catches for 79 yards and a touchdown. So he had well over 100 total yards in this game. So he's starting to look like his old self again. And also speaking to the Giants offense, Darius Slayton, I think he's a rookie, if I remember correctly, rookie wide receiver, is really coming into his own. He went 2 catches for 50 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. I think he's at like 4 or 5 on the year. He's really continuing to surprise for this Giants team that, is still a bit hurt in the wide receiver room. Sterling Shepard's still out with his second concussion, and that's pretty scary. But, I mean, the Giants have weapons. It's just a matter of, them correctly using them. But they just couldn't overcome Matthew Stafford today. Matthew Stafford went 25 of 32 for 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. That came very early on in the game, though. He got sacked 4 times. But even the Lions got tricky in this game. They had a flea flicker to Kenny Golladay in this game. It was crazy. Kenny Golladay, the Lions' true number 1 wide receiver, and he is really coming into his own this season. 6 catches, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I'm telling you guys, if you are not paying attention to the Lions' offense, specifically their passing offense, you're missing out because they are flat out fun to watch with what Darren Bevel, their first-year offensive coordinator, is coaching them up to do. It's truly fun to watch, and I cannot stress that enough. Now, their run game took a bit of a hit. They're running out Jared McKissick and Ty Johnson because, Kerryon Johnson's out with an injury. But like we talked about on Friday, I speculated that it wouldn't impact the offense too much because, they're so reliant on pass-heavy situations. And it turns out I was right. But they were playing a very, very bad defense in the Giants' defense. I will die on this hill that the Lions are a fun offense to watch. Their defense is awful and among one of the worst in the league, and that's what's going to hold this team back. But you know what? Maybe they have a bunch more shootouts this year where they win, 31-30. That's fun. The Lions are fun and watchable right now, which is a far cry from what they were last year with 6 wins and just absolute boring football. They're fun, and Matthew Stafford's having one of the better years of his career. And it's really not being talked about enough. As to the Giants, though, they're 2-6, and, even when the offense plays mostly well, they're still losing because of that defense. And word on the street is they had a players-only meeting on Monday, and you can read into that what you will, but the Giants, they're just struggling right now, and that's what happens when you put in a rookie quarterback. I'm not trying to be down on them, but it's what happens. You're going to struggle for a while, and it's just growing pains. And not all of it's on Daniel Jones, but the turnovers that he's had the last few weeks certainly haven't helped. He's one of the most turnover-prone quarterbacks, not just quarterbacks, players in the league since he became the starter. So you just got to ride the growing pains. Once again, Lions win this one 31-26, and Lions offense is fun, and people need to talk about it more. All right, moving on to our next game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers going all the way to Tennessee to take on the Titans, and Titans win a surprising one. Titans win 27-23. Tennessee improves to 4-4 and have won 2 straight now. Here come the Titans, people. Look out. And Tampa Bay falls to 2-5 and have lost, 2 or 3 straight? The Titans outlasted the Buccaneers in a back-and-forth fourth-quarter game against the Bucs. Ryan Tannehill, the Titans, I guess he's their official number 1 quarterback now. hits A.J. Brown on an 8-yard touchdown pass with 6:55 left in the game to take the lead from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the defense from the Titans had stepped up and had really slowed the roll of the Buccaneers throughout this game. But something happened late in this game, and the officials got kind of screwy with it. With 3:41 left, the Titans decide, hey, we're going to try a fake punt. And it didn't go so well. The punter gets hit, and he fumbles the ball. Devin White, the Buccaneers' first-round linebacker, hits Brett Kern, who is the punter, and he fumbles the ball. And it looks like Devin White recovers it, and it looks like he's got a clear path to the end zone. And it looks like Tampa Bay is going to score a miraculous touchdown to retake the lead with literal minutes left in the game. But there's only one problem. The refs blew the play dead before Brett Kern fumbled the football. If I remember correctly, they said his progression on the play had stopped, or whatever you want to argue, and they blew the play dead before he ever fumbled it. Even though it was a clear fumble and a clear recovery by Tampa Bay, it was wiped out because they blew the play dead. And it was an absolute gut punch for the Buccaneers because they truly felt that they just got a huge momentum shift and it just got taken away from them. And it sucks. You always want players you always want the refs to let situations play out. In this situation, they didn't. We saw something similar when New Orleans played the Rams in Week 2, when the refs wiped a defensive touchdown off the board because they blew a play dead too early. You always hate to see that. At least let it play out, and if something bad happened on the play that makes it don't count, correct it in review. Don't blow it dead and potentially cost the team a game. Well, they wiped the touchdown off the board, and a couple more punts ensue, and finally Tampa Bay has the ball back with less than a minute left, and Jameis Winston throws it downfield, and it gets picked off to end the game. He had 4 turnovers in this game. Jameis Winston did 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles. It was just a bad day for the Buccaneers quarterback, and head coach Bruce Arians blamed the interceptions on his receivers, which is true, but they especially on that last interception, it looked like his receiver just gave up on the route, and it got picked off as a result. But, Winston has a turnover problem. He does, and it's getting harder and harder to defend the guy. He went 21 of 43 in this game for 301 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like I mentioned, the 4 turnovers and 3 sacks. If you go back the last 2 games combined, Jameis Winston has 10 turnovers in 2 games. I mean, my goodness, man. This guy was drafted not number 1 overall, was he? Yeah, he was. He was drafted number 1 overall. Yeah. And we're into year 5 of his career, and we're sitting here debating about whether he should even be the starter on this team anymore. He's just way too turnover prone, and that's sad. And I think Tampa Bay played pretty well in this game. Mike Evans really had a great day, the number 1 wide receiver in Tampa Bay. 11 catches, 198 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, my goodness, Mike Evans, go off. But the story isn't about how Tampa Bay's offense, played well in spurts. It's about how the Titans' defense saved the day for their team. When their offense, didn't do much in this game. I mean, Ryan Tannehill went 21 of 33, 193 yards, 3 touchdowns. They were all very short passes. And he got sacked 3 times, but he played big down the stretch late in the game. He had a so-so day, Ryan Tannehill did, but he's winning. He's winning, which is, in 2 games, he's won the same amount as Marcus Mariota had won all year. So I know you can read into that what you will. I'm just saying. But surprisingly enough, Tennessee was able to win this game without Derrick Henry doing much for their offense. The Tampa Bay defense shut down Derrick Henry. He had 16 rushes for 75 yards. I mean, my goodness. It was just a really odd game to watch, and the Tennessee only really won because of their defense and Ryan Tannehill making some very big plays down the stretch, especially to A.J. Brown in the 4th quarter. I'm starting to buy. I think I can allow myself to buy into the Titans more now because Ryan Tannehill's their quarterback, and he's more a steady, consistent force than Marcus Mariota was. And their defense is playing well. I'm allowing myself to buy into the Titans a little bit. They're back to 500. Who knows what they can do. But I am back to believing for Jameis Winston that all he can do is turn over the football. That's all I will ever believe about the guy. And it's sad because he had a lot of promise, but even back in college he turned the ball over way too much, and he's still doing it now. Like I just said, I was able to remember that fact off the top of my head. These last 2 games combined, 10 turnovers, 6 in London, and now 4 here in Tennessee. That's just way too much, man. Once again, Titans win a wild one, 27-23, and I'm telling y'all, look out for the Titans, 4-4. They're not pushovers anymore now that Tannehill's at quarterback. Moving on to our next one, Denver at Indianapolis. Another weird game. Indianapolis wins this one, 15-13. Indianapolis improves to 5-2 on the season. Denver falls to 2-6. Adam Vinatieri, the ageless Adam Vinatieri, hits the go-ahead field goal, a 51-yard field goal. 51-yard field goal with 22 seconds left to give the Colts their first and only lead of the day, and they were able to hang on after the ensuing Joe Flacco drive. Their defense held it out, and Indianapolis stole one from Denver on a day where nobody really played well in this game. And it was a real redemption kick for Adam Vinatieri because he had missed a field goal earlier in the game. He'd also missed an extra point, and people on social media and the announcers were already giving him grief because he had struggled earlier in the season. But when it came down to it, he made a big kick that won him the game, and that's awesome for the future Hall of Famer Adam Vinatieri. Like I said, neither offense had played good. The Colts were also shooting themselves in the foot in this game. They had 10 penalties for over 100 yards in this game. It was just a really weird and odd game to watch because the Broncos took an early lead. They were up double digits, and then just the Colts just started dragging and clawing their way back into it. And to be brutally honest, the Broncos got conservative in the fourth quarter, and that conservatism cost them. It put their defense in bad situations, and the Colts took advantage. In this game, Joe Flacco went 20 of 32 for 174 yards, 3 sacks. And Jacoby Brissett, the Colts quarterback, went 15 of 25 for 202 yards and 4 sacks. But speaking to the conservatism about the Broncos offense, Joe Flacco, their quarterback, he was talking about it after the game. He said that he felt the coaching and play calling was too scared to go for it. And, try a 2-minute drill because they were scared to lose the game. And in my opinion, I'm always of the firmly held opinion that if you're coaching not to lose, you're coaching scared. And coaching scared loses you games. Joe Flacco's right. You're on the road against a division-leading opponent that's only lost 2 games all year. And the exact words Joe Flacco used were, "We're a 6-loss team. There is no reason why we shouldn't go for it." And he's right. The Broncos have nothing to lose. But they didn't go for it. They didn't try to go for the throat or anything like that. But the real storyline for this is, Joe Flacco spoke out after the game, but on Monday it came out that Joe Flacco's been dealing with some neck issues and some back issues, and it sounds like he's going to miss a couple weeks of action. So who knows what the Broncos are going to roll out next week? Is Drew Lock finally going to make his rookie debut for the Broncos? That remains to be seen, but for the Colts, it was ugly and sloppy, but they found a way to win, even when nothing went right for them. And that I've always held the opinion that's a sign of a good team when you find a way to win. And Colts are 5-2 right now. Just saying, nobody saw this coming. It's a sign that it's what good teams do. But for the Broncos, I had thought that they had solved their problems of choking in fourth quarters. Apparently, I was wrong. they need to learn to hold on to a lead and not choke in the last minute of a game. They have lost 3 games this year in the last 30 seconds. That's an actual stat that they just find a way to choke away a game. And it's sad. I mean, if you really think about it, there's a combined minute and 30 that if the Broncos just hold on through 3 games, that's the difference from them being what they currently are at 2-6 to being a 5-3 team above 500, and everybody would be singing their praises. So, I don't know what's next for the Broncos. They're probably going to trot out a different quarterback next week. It really doesn't matter because their defense is going to choke it away. It just doesn't matter. And that's that. Because I really thought that defense would be great this year. Once again, Colts win this one 15-13, an ugly, sloppy one in Indianapolis, but the Colts found a way to win. Moving on to our next one, Cincinnati at Rams. I want to say at Rams, but I had made a mistake in the last podcast and said it was in Los Angeles. This game was actually in London this week, and I didn't know about it until I started watching it, and I was very embarrassed. Rams win this one 24-10. The Rams have now won 2 straight and are 5-3 and really feeling themselves. Cincinnati falls to 0-8, and we're going to talk a lot about Cincinnati here really quick. Cooper Kupp, the Rams wide receiver, goes off and has an insane day to keep the Bengals winless. Cooper Kupp, you ready for the stat line by Cooper Kupp? You ready for this? Oh, I don't think you're ready. 7 catches, 220 yards, and a touchdown. An absolutely insane day by Cooper Kupp. Jared Goff, the Rams quarterback, also had a really good day. The Rams passing was magnificent in this game. 17-31 for 372 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rams were just going off, and they did all of this without really their running game working against a very bad rushing defense. The Rams only had like 98 yards rushing in this game, and we're going to talk about that more here in a second, but the Bengals kept it close for the first half. It was only 17-10 at the half. The Bengals did what they've done all year. They just do these weird spurts where they score suddenly and they're just dead for the rest of the game. And they scored 10 points suddenly in the second quarter, and it's a 7-point game at the half. But after the half, Rams scored a touchdown early in the third quarter, and that was a wrap. The Rams are a far cry from what they were last year, this unstoppable juggernaut on offense. But I still think they're an above-average team, albeit they are very one-dimensional through the passing game. And what I mean by that, they have no running game. They have to learn to find balance with the run game. And I am very concerned that if you can't run on this Bengals defense, then that means you have an absolutely awful run game. That's what that means in my opinion. If you can only get 98 rushing yards against a team that's giving up over 180 rushing yards a game, that's an awful sign for your run game. It just is. Because Cooper Kupp isn't going to give you 220 receiving yards every week. He's just not. But kudos to the Rams for going to London and winning a really just weird and off-putting game. They were able to protect Jared Goff. He didn't have a single sack in this game, and that's great. But these Rams are becoming one-dimensional, and there's no run game, and that's going to bite them in the rear end eventually. Because if a team can come in and shut down your passing game, you have no run game, you're kind of up, doo-doo creek without a paddle. We've talked about it a bunch on this podcast. The Bengals offense only appears in spurts, randomly and without warning, just like they did in this game, 10 points and nothing the rest of the game. But they were able to move the ball surprisingly well. They had over 400 total yards of offense, which is so weird for an offense that only scored 10 points. Andy Dalton had an okay day. He went 32 of 52 for 329 yards, a touchdown, 5 sacks. It was just a weird game. The Bengals are awful, but here's the more important thing. This news just came out this morning that the Bengals are deciding that they're going to bench their franchise quarterback Andy Dalton in favor of rookie quarterback Ryan Finley. The Bengals are basically telling you they're committed to the tank, that they are basically giving up their season. and that the era of Andy Dalton is basically over in Cincinnati. And I would argue, the trade deadline's already passed, but, if you're benching Andy Dalton, there's really no reason why you should be keeping A.J. Green at this point. There really isn't. I'm being brutally honest. You're an 0-8 team, and you're basically signaling that you're done with Andy Dalton. Why are you keeping A.J. Green? You are wasting his career. I'm just saying. But you know what's really sad? The news came out today that Andy Dalton would get benched. October 29th, this Tuesday. Today is also Andy Dalton's birthday. Talk about a kick in the teeth, it's your birthday and your team's already 0-8 and they're telling you we're done with you. That's sad. Oh, wow, that's sad. Once again, Rams will win this one 24-10, and it looks like an end of an era in Cincinnati for the Ginger Man, Andy Dalton. He's going to a different team next year, I'm telling you. And he's not a terrible quarterback, but he's not a great one. When he has good talent around him, I think Andy Dalton can be good. When he has bad talent around him like he does now, he's bad. If I remember correctly what Andrew Siciliano said over the weekend, Andy Dalton is the first quarterback in NFL history to start a season 8-0 and start another season 0-8. Everybody's quick to forget that 2015 season where Andy Dalton played great and the Bengals were amazing. I'm still convinced he can play. He just needs help. And there's no help in Cincinnati right now. Once again, Rams win that one. Moving on to our next game. Cardinals at Saints. Saints win this one 31-9. Saints improved to 7-1 and have won 6 straight. Arizona now 3-4-1 and snaps a 3-game winning streak for them. Drew Brees returned to action in this game. We had speculated that on Friday, and he picked up right where he left off. My goodness, Drew Brees went 34 of 43 for 373 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He went out there and carved up the Cardinals' defense and just made them look embarrassed. They didn't sack him once in this game, which was great for a guy coming back from injury. And the Saints' offense put on a show. Like Latavius Murray also went off in this game. Their backup running back, because Alvin Kamara is out for a second straight week. He went 21 rushes, 102 yards, and a touchdown. Michael Thomas continues to stay white hot as usual. 11 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown. It was just a great day for the Saints offense. A really great day. But not just their offense, their defense played great in this game too. They gave up They gave up 237 total yards in this game. It's the 5th straight game that the Saints defense has held its opponent to less than 260 total net yards, which is insane to think about. And they only gave up 40 rushing yards in this game and no touchdowns. They came into this game against a Cardinals offense that was getting better and better each week, that was running the ball a lot and feeling really great about themselves. And they took them to the woodshed and made them feel embarrassed. I mean, my goodness, this Saints defense came out and just suffocated them to death. The Cardinals kept it close in the first half. It was 10-6 in favor of New Orleans at the half. All the Cardinals did all game was kick field goals. They just couldn't get into the end zone. But that 10-6 score, Breeze was still knocking off some rust, and they were getting back in the rhythm. But as soon as the second half started, it was all New Orleans. The Saints go on a 21-3 run to close out the game and just impose their will on the Cardinals. And the Saints are back to, screaming to the top of their lungs that they are the big bad in the NFC. And the top of the NFC mountain is starting to get real crowded here lately, with the Saints, Packers, and 49ers all staking their claim that they are the big bad dog in the yard right now. And each one of them has a legitimate claim to make. I really think it's going to come down to horse race between those 3 teams to see who can get the number 1 overall seed. And that's going to be interesting later in the year because the 49ers play the Saints later in the year, and that's going to be a very fun game. But for the Cardinals, we had wondered what they were going to look like against a tougher defense than they have played all year long, and the answer is not good. Kyler Murray went 19 of 33 for 220 yards and got sacked 3 times. Chase Edmonds got shut down in this game. He was the starting running back because David Johnson's still out. Arizona just got dominated. There's no way around it. When they aren't able to run the ball, they apparently can't do much. But they made a trade with Miami on Monday, and they're getting running back Kenyon Drake to come over. So we're going to talk about that a bit more for the Thursday Night Football preview portion later in this podcast. But they got to kickstart that running game, or else they have trouble. It was just a flat dominant effort by the Saints. I mean, with Drew Brees in there, he's only played, what is it, like 2.5 games combined this season? And, for most of the time, he has looked phenomenal. And coming back off a thumb injury, now he's going into a bye week where he can rest and recuperate some more. The Saints are back to being scary again. And that should worry everybody else. So once again, Saints win this one 31-9, and Arizona goes back to the drawing board to try and figure things out again. They got to figure things out quick because they got a San Francisco team coming to their house Thursday night. All right, moving on to the last of our early games. The Jets at the Jags. Jags win this one 29-15. Jags improved to 4-4. They're back to 500. They've won 2 straight. And the Jets fall to 1-6 and have lost 2 straight now. Sam Darnold, the Jets quarterback, throws 3 interceptions, 2 of those in the fourth quarter, and is sacked a career-high 8 times as the Jags defense dominates and their offense makes some spectacular moves to win the game. So get this. The Jets, on their opening drive, had 93 total yards. The rest of the game, they had 116. That's what you would call defensive domination, kids. The Jags came into this game, and the sole mission of the Jags defense was to get after Sam Darnold, and they did. There was this report that came out early Sunday, like right before the game started, and you can believe it or you don't. I truly want to because it is so hilarious. On Monday night, Sam Darnold was picked up on a microphone saying that he was seeing ghosts out on the field. So the Jaguars defender said they were going to go after him today, and when they would get close to him, they said they were going to yell boo at him to scare him like a ghost would. Because they're awful human beings. The Jags mascot dressed up as a ghost for this game and was seen roaming the sidelines with a bedsheet on his head. It was pure hysterical stuff that the Jags were doing. And their defense dominated in this game. They shut Sam Darnold down. He went 21-30 for 218 yards, 2 touchdowns, but like I said, 3 ugly interceptions. 2 of those in the fourth quarter to, fully derail any chance of a comeback, and 8 sacks. Any good that Sam Darnold did in this game was outshined by his mistakes. And the Jets go right back to being in a dark, sunken place for their team. On the other hand, for the Jags looked great, and Gardner Minshew looked, like his old self that we saw through the first couple weeks. He went 22-34 for 279 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 sacks, and doing some of that patented Minshew magic. It looked like the old Gardner Minshew. The last 2 weeks, Gardner hasn't really played that well. In this game, he played pretty well, and I was happy to see that again, because I'm of the firm opinion that he should be the starting quarterback of this team and not Nick Foles. And I think it's a very good testament to Gardner Minshew that he was able to play this well without Leonard Fournette really doing much. Because I think what did Leonard Fournette had? He had like 70 total rushing yards in this game. He was also a threat in the receiving category, but most of the work was done by Gardner Minshew in this game. Chris Conley, the Jags wide receiver, 4 catches, 103 yards, and a touchdown. The Jags are being a streaky team, like I've said the last couple of weeks. They're going to win 2 games, and they're going to lose 2 games, and they're going to win 2 games. So what happens the next 2 weeks? Are they going to lose 2 games straight? Who knows? Find out next time on The Jags Are a Streaky Team. But this was a good win for the Jags. They're back to above 500 and trying to keep pace with the rest of that AFC South. and the Jets are just 1-6, and that's the main reason why they were having the talks that they could be a fire sale team today. Uh, it I did wonder, hearing all those rumors today, are the Jets going to give Adam Gase the same kind of control that he had in Miami when he just started, getting rid of people left and right and remake the whole roster, or are they going to try to limit his control some? It'll remain to be seen, but I thought it was an interesting thought at least. Once again, Jags win this one 29-15, and the Jets are in a very dark place again. All right, moving on to the first of our late games, Carolina at San Francisco, and this was probably the most shocking result of the weekend in my opinion. Not because of who won, but because of what the final score was and how one-sided this game turned out to be. San Francisco wins this game 51-13. You heard that correctly, 51-13. San Francisco stays unbeaten and improves to 7-0, and Carolina falls to 4-3 and it snaps a 4-game winning streak. It was just about as one-sided of a beatdown as a one-sided beatdown can get. This was the 49ers game from the word go. They had no answer for the 49ers running back Tevin Coleman, who had 4 touchdowns on the day. Let me read you his stat line. You ready for this? Tevin Coleman, there it is. 11 rushes for 105 yards and 3 touchdowns. You heard that correctly. 11 rushes for 105 yards. You can do the math and realize that that's an insane number. He also caught 2 passes for 13 yards and a touchdown. So 4 total touchdowns on the day for Tevin Coleman. And the 49ers defense came out and just made Kyle Allen look absolutely stupid. They made that kid look stupid, foolish, and not know where he's at. Kyle Allen throws 3 picks in this game and gets sacked 7 times. I think if I remember correctly, 5 or 6 of those happened in the first half. And Nick Bosa is really making a strong claim to not only be the rookie of the year, he's making a strong claim to be the defensive player of the year. 3 sacks in this game, an interception, and on that interception, he ran the ball back like 50 yards before he got tackled. Remember last week when Booger McFarland said that Nick Bosa won't wow you with his athleticism? Yeah, right. This dude's a freak of nature, just like his brother. It was all 49ers from the word go. They had scored double-digit points in every single quarter of this game. 14, 13, 10. They were just putting up points left and right. And in all brutal honesty, this game was over at the half. What was the halftime score? Yeah, it was 27-3 at halftime. And like I said, Kyle Allen had been sacked like 6 times. The game was over at halftime. But they decided to play another half, and the score somehow got even worse. Emmanuel Sanders, the brand new 49er, got their first touchdown of the day, and then after that, they never looked back. The 49ers had 232 rushing yards on the day. They just came out and dominated a very good team. The Panthers, they're not one of the better teams in the NFC, but they're a solid, they're a solid team. They were 4-2 coming into this game and really feeling themselves and feeling confident. Kyle Allen hadn't lost a game. He had never lost a game in the NFL. He's like 5-0 as a starter. And they walk into this game, and the 49ers literally picked them up and then brought them down with authority across their knee and broke them in half. This was a thorough, ugly, one-sided beatdown by the 49ers. They did what they wanted to do at will, and the Panthers had no answers. It was hard to watch, in all honesty. Kyle Allen finished 19-37 for 158 yards, like I said, 3 interceptions and 7 sacks. Christian McCaffrey, 14 rushes for 117 yards and a touchdown. I'm pretty sure most of that came in garbage time, though. This defense is good. This offense is just running the ball everywhere. And, Jimmy Garoppolo still kind of has a turnover problem. He went 18 of, 228? No, I'm sorry. 18 of 22. I can't even read my own handwriting. 18 of 22, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, and he threw an interception, so he's still struggling a bit with, keeping the ball safe, but the 49ers are just going to run all over you, and they're scary, and they're dominant, and people should be afraid. Uh, I just don't know who can stop the 49ers right now. You would have to find a way to bottleneck their run game and force Jimmy Garoppolo to beat you, but I just don't see how you stop their run game right now. It was thorough domination. Once again, 49ers win this one 51-13 and are making a serious case to be not just one of the best teams in the NFC, one of the best teams in the NFL. Period. Moving on to our next one, Cleveland at New England. New England wins this one 27-13. New England stays unbeaten at 7-0. Cleveland falls to 2-5. They've lost 3 straight, if I'm doing my math correctly. The Patriots defense leads the way again as Bill Belichick gets his 300th win as an NFL head coach. One of only 3 men in NFL history to have 300 wins as a head coach. Interestingly enough, his very first win as a head coach came in 1991 when he was the Browns head coach against the New England Patriots. Boom, how about that nugget? The Pats forced 3 turnovers in the first quarter to take an early 17-0 lead, but then the Browns just start slowly clawing their way back. They scored a touchdown about midway through the second quarter to make it 17-7 at the half. And at the start of the third quarter, I was sitting there watching this game. I'm like, you know what? The Browns kind of have some momentum here. They kick a field goal, make it 17-10, and they're getting after Tom Brady. They're getting some sacks. And Nick Chubb, the Browns running back, was, finding open holes and running, 6-7 yards at a time. And I'm sitting there watching this game. I'm like, oh my gosh, the Browns are kind of taking it to the Patriots, stunningly. But then, like I said, the Browns cut it to 17-13. Oh, no, not 17-13. 17-10, my mistake. It's a 7-point game, and you're thinking, wow, the Browns are right here with it. Well, then Brady decides to crush the rally, hits Julian Edelman for a touchdown about halfway through the third quarter, and it officially puts the game out of reach, and then the Patriots just coast to a win. But I'm telling you, I was sitting there watching this game, and, we know how to beat Tom Brady. You got to sack him. You got to get to him consistently and make him feel pressure because he's old. But I was watching, the Browns offense go up against the Patriots defense, and I was kind of thinking, you know what? I think the Browns are onto something. Watching them run against the Patriots and just get, these huge chunk plays with Nick Chubb. I mean, Nick Chubb went 20 rushing attempts for 131 yards. I think the Browns might have accidentally discovered, because I don't want to give them credit because it's the Browns. They haven't done anything right all year. I think the Browns might have shown the NFL a clue on how to crack this defense. And we're really going to find out next week when the Patriots play the Ravens on Sunday Night Football. One of the most prolific rush teams in the NFL. So if the Browns, discovered a clue, the Ravens could maximize it. It'll be interesting to see. But like I said, Patriots defense was just too much to overcome for the Browns. And the Patriots offense just coasted. It was really, really interesting watching the New England offense improvise on the fly in the third quarter after, Tom Brady got sacked a couple times, and then they just, in the middle of a drive, they moved to fix the situation and started calling more screens to neutralize the pass rush. And it was just amazing to watch them improvise on the fly, and it just shows you how well coached they are. That something's not working right that instant, they can fix it in the next instance. They're just that good. But Baker Mayfield Browns quarterback, went 20 of 31 for 194 yards, a touchdown, an interception, and 5 sacks. It wasn't a good day at the office. We talked about Nick Chubb. Tom Brady went 20 of 36 for 259 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 sacks. I'm a little worried about this Pats offense, like I said on Friday. I don't know. It just feels like something's off about them, and I can't quite name it, but I can't harp on it because I had issues with their offense last year, and it didn't matter because they won the Super Bowl. So, But for the Browns, everybody wants to be down on the Browns because they're 2-5. This time last year, their record was 2-4-1, so they're basically in the same exact spot. Granted, their numbers in basically every category are worse than they were last year, but they're basically in the same spot, and their schedule's supposed to get lighter. So maybe the Browns can turn things around and end on a positive note this season instead of an overtly negative one like most of their season has been. But like I said, watching that early third quarter and watching Nick Chubb run all over the Patriots defense, I really couldn't help but feel some hope that maybe the Patriots aren't invincible after all. That maybe, just maybe, the Browns showed the NFL a clue on accident as how to beat this almost unbeatable Goliath that is the Patriots. So it remains to be seen. But moving on to our next game, Oakland to Houston, a really fun one coming down the stretch. Houston wins this one 27-24. Houston improves to 5-3 on the year, and Oakland falls to 3-4, and they've lost 2 games straight. So let me set the stage for you. Houston's trailing. They're down by 4 points late in the fourth quarter, but they're in the red zone. Deshaun Watson takes a snap, scrambles out of the pocket, and he's got a man draped around his ankles, but he escapes him. But for whatever reason, the Raider defender in front of him kind of slips, and Deshaun Watson, I don't know how to describe it, basically takes a cleat to the face. It gets in between, the little eye area on the face mask, and it catches Deshaun Watson right in the eye. Dude literally got kicked right in the eye. Scrambles for another couple yards, and throws a beautiful touchdown pass to Darren Fells with one eye open. With 6:26 left in the game, 6 minutes and 26 seconds left in the game, to give the Texans the lead, and that was the go-ahead touchdown, and the Texans defense was able to hang on and win the game. Me describing it doesn't do it justice. You have to go watch this play because it might be the best touchdown we've seen all year long. John Gruden, the Raiders head coach, compared Deshaun Watson to Michael Jordan after the game, and he's kind of right. This guy is incredible to watch. Deshaun Watson said after the game he couldn't see Darren Fells, but he felt that he was there, and he threw the touchdown pass to where he felt Darren Fells would be. He didn't see him. And still threw a touchdown pass to his tight end. That's incredible. You guys got to go watch it if you get the chance. It is a truly amazing touchdown pass and throw. Houston completed the fourth quarter comeback. They outscored Oakland 14-3 in the fourth quarter to, complete it. For most of that game, Oakland led for the majority of that game. Houston only got the lead after that insane Deshaun Watson touchdown pass to Darren Fells. That was Houston's first lead of the day. So, Oakland led for basically all of the game. The Houston D held Oakland to under 100 rushing yards in this game. 23 rushes for 93 yards. And that's important because that's how Oakland had been, doing most of their offensive production with Josh Jacobs, and he was held to 60, 70 rushing yards in this game. Despite that, Derek Carr played pretty well. In my opinion, 18 of 30 for 285 yards and 3 touchdowns. One of those was to the returning Tyrell Williams, who continues his hot streak of every game he's played in so far this season, he catches a touchdown. And he did it today. 3 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown pass for Tyrell. A much-needed boost for the Raiders' receiver room. But Oakland only had 3 total drives in the second half. This game was a lot of, long drives that consumed a lot of clock. And of the 3 total drives that Oakland had, they scored points on 2 of them. They scored 10 total points in the second half. But on the last drive, they punted, and they just never got the ball back. Houston got it with a couple minutes left, and they just ran out the clock. It's just so odd because I felt like I've been hard on the Raiders offense, specifically their passing offense, and this was probably their best game all year. They played a clean game. Derek Carr didn't even get sacked in this game, but he just got outshined by Deshaun Watson's late game heroics by by Houston. I mean, it was truly incredible, and I cannot understate that enough. Deshaun Watson went 27 to 39 for 279 yards, 3 touchdowns, and got sacked 3 times. So, hey, how about that? DeAndre Hopkins caught 11 passes for 109 yards, and I'm still going to maintain that the Texans are probably going to win this division. But this shows that, in a gutty, close, gritty performance against a pass rush that was, after him for a large portion of the game, that the Texans can win. That's a big step for them. Because that's what I've been saying is their Achilles heel and how they lose games this entire season. And the Raiders are back to the drawing board because this was kind of their game too. This was in the Raiders' wheelhouse. A close game against a high-scoring opponent. This was very much a John Gruden grind-out game, and they just couldn't close the deal late in it. And, that sucks, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Sometimes you get the lucky bounce, and sometimes Deshaun Watson throws a touchdown with one eye open. It's the nature of the beast, I was really impressed by the Texans finding a way to win this one, but Oakland's a well-coached team. I've given them a lot of grief, and especially John Gruden these last 2 years. They are a well-coached team that are in most of their games. Maybe the Raiders aren't going to be a massive disappointment under John Gruden like I thought they were when they initially hired him. I'll be willing to admit I was wrong, but they're playing good football right now. They're only 3-4. They're only one game under 500, They're playing good football. Raiders have been one of the more surprising teams in the NFL this year. And that's a massive compliment, in my opinion. Once again, Houston wins this one 27-24, and we're moving on to Sunday Night Football. Another surprising game. Green Bay at Kansas City. Green Bay wins this one 31-24. Green Bay improves to 7-1. Kansas City falls to 5-3. Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones have a day with each other to fend off Matt Moore, of all people. Aaron Rodgers went 23 of 33 for 305 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 5 sacks as he continues to stay white hot in the NFC North. And Aaron Jones, he didn't have the best rushing day, 13 rushes for 67 yards. But in receiving, he got 7 passes for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's well over 200 total yards for Aaron Jones on the day as those two continue to be just absolute dynamite with each other. And they needed every bit of that because Matt Moore and that Chiefs offense would not go away. I was expecting a lot of simple dump off and easy stuff for the Chiefs in this game, but no, Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, their offensive coordinator, they came up with a great game plan for Matt Moore to look competitive in this one. And Matt Moore, in my opinion, played pretty well for a guy who hasn't started a game in, 2 years. Went 24 of 36 for 267 yards, 2 touchdowns, and got sacked twice. I mean, the Chiefs were ultra competitive in this game, surprisingly. Matt Moore started out rough, but then he found like a real good groove and was really able to get into it and was making some good throws. I mean, Kansas City had the lead at halftime. It was 17-14 at the half. And I know a lot of people were on Twitter, really stunned at this game because Green Bay jumped out to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter. And then the Chiefs jump out and score 17 unanswered points in the second quarter, to go into the half leading. And it was just a back and forth game. But then in the second half, Green Bay just asserted their will and went on a 17-7 run to close the game in order to win it. I was just really impressed by Aaron Rodgers. He just continues to look better and better each week, and every week he's making a jaw-dropping throw like he did in this game. The Packers are looking better each week, and like I said, it's going to be a 3-horse race for the first overall seed. Green Bay, New Orleans, or San Francisco, who's going to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. It's going to be a true come down to the wire kind of thing, in my opinion, but Packers are looking better and better each week. And you know what? The Chiefs are really banged up, and that's what their issue is right now, but they really played well in this game, in my opinion. Especially that offense with Mahomes out, and we don't know how long he's going to be out. There's talk he could play next week, which is crazy, but All credit to Matt Moore and that coaching offense. The Chiefs played really well in this game, and that was very surprising in my opinion. Once again, Packers win a fun one on Sunday Night Football that not a lot of people saw coming or being fun, but Packers get another big win. It's their first win in Kansas City since 2007, so how about that? But really, I'm a really firm believer in the Packers right now. I think it's their division to lose in the NFC North, and who knows after that, but Packers are very good right now, and they're 7-1, and they're feeling themselves. And for the Chiefs, they just got to get healthy. That's their main issue. Once again, Packers win this one. Moving on to Monday Night Football. Very odd one. Miami Dolphins at Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh wins this one 27-13. Pittsburgh now 3-4 have won 2 straight. All of a sudden, Pittsburgh's, right back into being positive about themselves, and the Dolphins are still winless. All right, so Steelers overcame a very slow start in this game to keep the Dolphins winless. Steelers turnovers, penalties, drop passes, you name it, it happened to the Steelers in the first quarter. And all of a sudden, the Dolphins have a 14-0 lead in the first quarter on Monday Night Football. And Twitter was losing its mind at this game. That, I promise you, if a team loses to the Dolphins this season, they're going to get ridiculously clowned on social media. And the Steelers were getting clowned on social media, and their offense wasn't looking good. Mason Rudolph was turning the ball over, and it just was not looking good for the Steelers. But to their credit, they stuck with it. They stayed competitive, and they started finding a groove. They kick a field goal to make it 14-3 right before the half, and they get the ball back. And this is when the game turned, in my opinion. Because it's 14-3, the Dolphins have an 11-point lead. It's right before the half, and you got the Steelers in 3rd and 20. They're outside of field goal range. So you're thinking, okay, stop them here. You keep them from kicking a field goal, and you're feeling really good about yourself going into half in a game that, you could potentially win for the Dolphins. Well, it's 3rd and 20, and for whatever reason, first-year head coach Brian Flores decides, we're going to call an all-out blitz. We're going to try and frazzle this young quarterback and make him throw a bad pass. Well, he doesn't throw a bad pass. He throws a touchdown pass. And all of a sudden, it's 14-10 going into half, and Pittsburgh has all the momentum in the world. And everybody's asking, why did Brian Flores call that play? Why did he call an all-out blitz? And the answer is simple. The Dolphins want to tank. It was getting too uncomfortable, and they were getting too close to a win, so they had to do something to change it. That was the only moment where I sincerely doubted that the players wanted to win. Players and coaches wanted to win. That was the only moment this season. I have long maintained that the Dolphins front office is the only one that wants to tank. After watching that 3rd and 20 blitz, I am starting to think that the coaches want to tank too. That was atrociously bad. So it's 14-10 at the half. And Dolphins still have the lead. I mean, they're still in front. Then Pittsburgh scores 17 unanswered points in the second half, and it's a wrap. I mean, after the Dolphins went up 14-0, the Steelers score 27 unanswered to win the game. It was all Steelers after the Dolphins go up 14-0. And I'm telling you, that 3rd and 20 where they called the blitz, that's when all the momentum shifted. Because now the crowd's back into it. Mason Rudolph's feeling better about himself. You did it to yourself, Miami. You got nobody to blame but you. Mason Rudolph, to his credit, really stuck with it after a rough start. He went 20 of 36 for 251 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, and 2 sacks. This was also the Minkah Fitzpatrick revenge game. Remember, Minkah Fitzpatrick got traded from the Dolphins earlier this season, and he got back at him a bit at this game, which is kind of weird. He picked off Ryan Fitzpatrick twice in this game. Get back. It's weird because the Dolphins also own the Steelers' first-round draft pick. It's weird because the Dolphins want to have the number 1 overall pick, but it also helps them if the Steelers are bad. So no matter what the Dolphins did, they kind of hurt their draft chances in this game. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Dolphins quarterback, went 21 of 34, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 4 sacks. it's just another heartbreaking night for the Dolphins. Their fans have to be so tired at this point. James Conner, the Steelers running back, had a really great night. He went 23 rushes for 145 yards and a touchdown. Really looked like his old self, like he did last season. But he left with a shoulder injury in this game. Don't know I think they said it was an AC joint sprain about 20 minutes ago. I just saw it on the TV. So we'll see, what his condition for the Sunday's game is going to be, kind of wait and see. But thankfully, it's not anything serious from the sound of it. Everybody's a doctor on Twitter when a player gets hurt. They're all saying, oh, it's a collarbone. He's done for the season. Nobody really knows anything. But thankfully, it's not that. So it remains to be seen how healthy James Conner is going to be. And Juju Smith-Schuster had a really good game, too. That really crazy circus catch he had in the third quarter, if I remember correctly, for a touchdown where he just went up and stole it from the defender was absolutely great. 5 catches, 103 yards, and a touchdown. Don't look now, but here come the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe they won't be absolutely awful this year. I was really hard on them when they said that they thought they could still win after Ben Roethlisberger got hurt. Well, now what? Guess what? They're 3-4 right now. So I know that they've, beaten up on the Dolphins. So you can't really give them too much credit for that because it's the Dolphins. But still, they were down 14-0 on a big primetime game, and they came all the way back to win it. So good for them. Once again, Steelers win this one 27-14. So that's it for a recap portion. Now we're going to dive into Thursday Night Football really, really quickly. You got the San Francisco 49ers going to Arizona to take on the Cardinals, an NFC West divisional matchup on Thursday Night Football. Cardinals have to find a way to kickstart their running game. I feel like that's when their offense is at its best, when their running game is working well. And they have to figure it out with Chase Edmonds, because it sounds like David Johnson might be out for a while, especially since they traded for Kenyon Drake. So now you got a two-headed monster. Kenyon Drake's a solid running back, and Chase Edmonds shown he can maybe be special after that New York game. So those two have to find a way to kickstart this run game for the Cardinals. And for the Cardinals defense, you got to capitalize on Jimmy G's mistakes. Jimmy Garoppolo, the 49ers quarterback. He's proven to be turnover prone this entire season. At least once or twice a game he might throw an interception. Gotta steal it when you can, especially Patrick Peterson. Who's hoping to make up for lost time, after that 6-game suspension. This would be a perfect opportunity for him. Go out there and maybe steal an interception or two. And the Cardinals have to find a way to reignite their pass rush through Chandler Jones, who has 8 sacks on the season. They had none in their game against New Orleans over the weekend. Try and get some in this game. You're going to have to make some big plays, and Kyler Murray's going to have to step up and make some big boy throws in this game in order to keep the Cardinals in it, because this 49ers offense is going to run some more now on you. With Emmanuel Sanders and George Kittle, they can also throw the ball. But the main thing is that 49ers defense is coming after Kyler Murray. And they're going to come after him hard. They are feeling themselves. They think they are world beaters right now. After what they did to Kyle Allen and the Panthers, now you're waving a stake in front of them and Kyler Murray. They're going to come after him. And Kyler Murray's going to have to make some big boy throws in this game if the Cardinals have any chance of winning it. But I think this game could get ugly fast. And I really think that the 49ers are going to come out and have another dominant performance, this time on primetime football, and really just assert themselves on their division rival. But, you never know with division rivalry games. Things could get weird. But I'm going to take the Cardinals to win. Not the Cardinals, oh my gosh, no. I'm going to take the 49ers to win this one on Thursday Night Football. I think it's going to be a very one-sided affair. And, yeah, I think the 49ers win a very one-sided beatdown. So that's it for today's show, the October 29th edition. We just recapped all of Sunday's games, and we talked about the trade deadline, even though nothing happened. So next time we talk, it'll be Friday, and we're going to recap everything we just talked about. We're going to recap Thursday Night Football, and we're going to preview the rest of Week 9. Yep, Week 9. We're past the halfway point, people. Yeah, things start getting real serious right now. You know it's serious when broadcasts start putting up playoff pictures and who's in and who's out and who's a wild card right now. That's how you know things are getting serious. So thanks for stopping by, and talk to everybody Friday. Bye.